I'd never noticed how quiet the office could be after everyone left. The humming of the old fluorescent lights filled the empty corners, and the smell of rain drifted in through the cracked window. My desk sat opposite hers, but she never stayed this late. Tonight she had a thin line of light glowing from under her glass door. I told myself I was only bringing the blueprints she'd asked for. My palms were damp anyway. When I pushed the door open, she was standing by the window, sleeves rolled to her elbows, hair loose for once. The city lights caught the silver strands and made them glow. She didn't turn immediately, but she knew it was me. "You're still here?" she asked. Her voice was soft, like she was used to being overheard and didn't want to be. I held up the rolled papers like an excuse. "You needed these for tomorrow's meeting." Her eyes met mine then. A faint smile. "I did. Thank you." I set the blueprints on her desk, but didn't step back. The room smelled like paper and her perfume, nothing sweet, just clean and sharp, like cedar. She tapped the edge of the desk twice, as if thinking, then sighed. "You work too hard," she said. "You're still here," I answered. That made her laugh, but it wasn't carefree. More like she'd been caught. She crossed her arms and looked at me longer than she should have. I felt the heat in my neck rise. I'd rehearsed casual jokes for moments like this, but none came. I leaned against the desk instead, trying to act like I belong. "Do you ever get used to it?" "Used to what?" she asked. "The empty office. The long nights. Feeling like you're the last one awake in the city." She tilted her head, considering. "No. You just stop fighting it." We stayed in the silence that followed. I watched her fingers trace the edge of the window frame, almost absent-mindedly. She wasn't wearing her wedding ring anymore. I'd noticed weeks ago but never asked. Something about the way she stood there, so composed, but holding something back, made me want to reach across the desk and touch her hand. I didn't. Instead, I asked, "Do you want me to lock up when I leave?" She turned then, fully, and for the first time all night her expression slipped. Not sadness exactly. More like a door opening a fraction. "You're different from the others," she said quietly. My mouth went dry. "Different how?" Her eyes flicked to the door, then back to me. "You listen." I swallowed. "I try." That made her step closer. Not much, just a few inches, but enough to smell the rain on her coat, the warmth of her skin under it. My heart beat so hard I could hear it in my ears. "I've been waiting for this moment," she said. She didn't smile this time. And I realized, so had I. The words hung between us, heavy and electric. She reached for the blueprints, but her fingers brushed mine instead and stayed there, just for a breath too long. That's when her phone buzzed on the desk. A message lit up the screen, her face shifting as she read it. She pulled her hand back quickly, eyes flicking to me with something like panic. Her phone kept buzzing. She pressed the screen face down without answering, then took a slow breath like she'd been holding it all evening. "I should go," I said, but didn't move. She shook her head. "No, stay. Just one more minute." The rain had grown heavier outside, streaking the window with silver lines. The city beyond looked blurred, like a painting seen through tears. She pulled her hair back with both hands, then dropped them to her sides. Her bare wrists looked strangely vulnerable. "I'm sorry about that," she murmured. "It's complicated." I didn't ask. She never talked about her personal life, and I'd only heard office rumors. A separation, maybe a pending divorce. All I really knew was that she rarely left before midnight, and never let anyone walk her to her car. My hands found the edge of the desk. "You don't have to explain." She gave a quick smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I know. But sometimes I wish someone would ask." I thought of my own silence, how I'd rehearsed words in my head for weeks. That I'd noticed her hands trembling slightly when she held her coffee. that I'd caught her staring at nothing in meetings. When I didn't answer, she filled the quiet. I married very young. He liked that I was ambitious. Until he didn't. She traced a circle on the desk with her fingertip. And you? I've never been married, I said. I'm only 24. That made her glance up sharply. You're still a child. I half smiled. Not exactly. Her mouth twitched like she wanted to take the words back. No. Not exactly. For a moment the only sound was the rain and the faint hum of the air conditioner. Inside, my thoughts were loud. She's my boss, she's twice my age, she could end my internship with a single email. But none of that felt real next to the warmth of her standing so close, the scent of cedar and rain. She stepped away, reached for her coat. We can't. She started, then stopped herself. I blurted. Do you ever regret it? She blinked. What? Playing by the rules. Doing everything the right way. Ending up alone in an office at midnight. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Instead, she turned back to the window. Her reflection in the glass looked younger, softer. Every day, she whispered. I didn't think. I just moved beside her, shoulder brushing her sleeve. She didn't move away. Outside, a lightning flash lit the room white for a heartbeat. When it faded, she was still standing there, eyes closed, my hand inches from hers on the window ledge. She opened her eyes slowly. You'll catch a cold, she said, but her voice had lost its edge. I let my fingers shift until they barely touched hers. She didn't pull back. Instead, she whispered, This is dangerous. Yet her fingers curled slightly around mine, like a secret she wasn't ready to let go. The elevator dinged somewhere down the hall. She flinched, yanking her hand from mine like it burned. Go, she whispered. Now. I backed toward the door just as footsteps echoed in the corridor. Through the glass panel I caught a blurred shape, a tall man in a dark coat, moving fast. Her face went pale. She straightened her blouse, smoothed her hair, picked up a file as if she'd been working. Don't say a word, she hissed. The door opened. A man I'd never met stepped in, rain dripping from his collar. Older than me but younger than her husband would be, I guessed, mid-30s, broad-shouldered, eyes sharp. Caroline, he said. Just her name, but it carried weight. She kept her voice even. David. You shouldn't be here. I hovered by the desk, heartbeat in my throat. He glanced at me. Who's this? She didn't look at me. My intern. His gaze stayed on me a second too long. Must be lonely, working so late. I was just leaving, I said. My voice cracked anyway. He smirked but said nothing. She closed the file with a snap. You need to go, she told him. This isn't the time. Then when? His tone softened but didn't lose its edge. I've called you all week. Her jaw tightened. We're done with this conversation. Lightning flashed again, throwing his shadow long across the floor. I slipped toward the door, but her hand brushed my sleeve, barely there, but enough to stop me. She didn't even look at me. David caught it anyway. His eyebrows lifted just slightly, like he'd filed it away. Right, he said. Late night at the office. Sure. He walked out without another word, door shutting hard behind him. The silence afterward was louder than his voice had been. She kept staring at the door. Her hands trembled. Caroline, I started. She spun toward me. You shouldn't be here. You don't understand what. I understand enough, I said. Her eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. He's not my husband, she whispered. He's the lawyer. The one handling the divorce. And he hates that it's ending. I stepped closer. Then why? Because if he thinks there's someone else, she said, voice breaking, he'll drag this out for years. He'll destroy me. I didn't know what to say. She pressed a hand to her forehead. "This can't happen," she muttered. "Not now." But she didn't move away when I reached out. Our foreheads nearly touched, her breath catching. For a heartbeat, the space between us was gone. Then she turned sharply, crossing to the window. "Go," she said again, softer this time. I stayed where I was, her reflection in the glass like a ghost. "I'm not leaving you like this," I said. She closed her eyes. "Then don't." The rain hammered the glass, drowning the city noise. Between us hung a silence so heavy it felt like a promise. The next night I told myself I wouldn't stay late. I stayed anyway. Caroline's door was closed, blinds drawn. Through the frosted glass I could see her shadow pacing, phone pressed to her ear. Her voice came through in jagged pieces. "Not fair, can't do this." Then the sound of something slammed down. I hesitated outside, my hand inches from the knob. She opened the door before I touched it. Her face was flushed, eyes bright. "You can't be here," she said. But she didn't sound angry. She sounded like she was about to break. "I just came to drop these," I murmured, holding up a folder I didn't need to bring. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed like a shield. "You're making this harder." "I'm making what harder?" Her laugh was sharp and brief. "Everything." I stepped in before she could shut me out, setting the folder on the desk. "Then tell me to stop." "I am," she whispered. But she didn't move when I stepped closer. The air between us was warm, heavy with rain and sleeplessness. "You think I don't know how this looks?" she said suddenly, voice rising. "You're young. My intern. People already suspect. If David finds out, he already suspects." I cut in. She froze. "He saw us," I said. "He saw your hand on my sleeve. He knows." Her hands dropped from her arms. For a moment she looked small, younger, like the woman in the window reflection. "Then it's over," she said. "He'll ruin everything." "Let him," I said. "Let him think whatever he wants." She shook her head. "You don't understand. I've spent 20 years building a life he can destroy in one court filing." "You're—" She stopped herself. "I'm what?" "Not supposed to matter," she whispered. That hit harder than I expected. "And yet here we are." The office felt too quiet, the fluorescent hum like static in my ears. My throat was dry. "You've been waiting for this moment," I said softly, echoing her words from that first night. "And so have I." She closed her eyes. Her shoulders trembled. "If we cross this line, then we cross it," I said. Her eyes snapped open, something like fear and desire tangled there. She took a step toward me, then stopped. Her fingers brushed the edge of the desk, knuckles white. "I shouldn't," she whispered. "I'm not asking you to," I whispered back. But we were already closer than we'd ever been. One more breath and her forehead would be against mine. Her perfume was cedar and rain and something like surrender. The elevator dinged again down the hall. Footsteps, slower this time, approaching. Her eyes flicked to the door, then back to me. "Don't," she said, but her voice cracked. I didn't move. The door handle turned. The door swung open before either of us could step back. It wasn't David this time. It was my roommate, Sam, rain dripping from his hoodie, his phone clutched in one hand. "What the hell, Alex?" he blurted, eyes flicking from me to Caroline. "You didn't answer my calls. And now I know why." My stomach dropped. "Sam, it's exactly what it looks like," he said, voice rising. "She's your boss. She's old enough to be." He caught himself, glancing at her, then back at me. "You're throwing everything away." Caroline's hands were clenched at her sides, face pale but composed. "Alex, you need to handle this," she said quietly. Sam's phone buzzed in his palm. He glanced at the screen, then shoved it toward me. David called me. Said he had proof. Said he's going to the board. You're about to lose your internship. She's about to lose her job. Caroline blinked. He called you? Sam's gaze shifted, shame flickering in his eyes. He offered me money. Said if I tell him when you're together, he'll make sure Alex lands a permanent position somewhere else. You told him where I was tonight? I said flatly. Sam looked away. I didn't think he'd actually show up. I just... Caroline let out a sharp breath, one hand pressed to her forehead. This is worse than I thought. The room spun around me, the rain, the hum of the lights, Sam's ragged breathing. So what now? I asked. She straightened, every inch of her suddenly executive again. Now we act like nothing ever happened, she said. Tonight didn't exist. You go back to your desk. I lock this door. We both pretend. My throat tightened. Is that what you want? Her eyes flicked to Sam, then back to me. It's what's safest. Sam muttered, it's the only way. But his voice sounded hollow. I stepped closer to her anyway. You once said you wished someone would ask. I'm asking. Do you want me to walk away? Her lips parted but no answer came. Her hand shook slightly on the desk edge. Sam took a step back toward the hall. He's on his way up, he whispered. David. He said he's coming back with someone from HR. Caroline's eyes snapped to mine. For the first time, fear and defiance were both there, bright and unmistakable. If you stay, you lose everything, she said. I already have, I said. The elevator dinged again. Footsteps echoed, louder now. Caroline's fingers found mine under the desk. Then we decide right now, she whispered. The footsteps stopped just outside the door. The handle turned once, twice. Caroline's grip on my hand tightened under the desk, small tremors running through her fingers. I'm not hiding, I whispered. You should, she whispered back. The door opened. David stepped in, this time with a woman in a gray HR badge trailing behind him. His smile was thin. Evening, he said. Thought we'd drop by. Caroline straightened, letting go of my hand. Her voice was steady, but I heard the crack beneath it. This is my office. You can't just, oh, but I can, David said. When company policy is being violated. The HR woman shifted uncomfortably. We've received a complaint. Caroline cut her off. Then let's stop dancing around it. You think I'm having an inappropriate relationship with my intern. David's eyebrows rose. Am I wrong? Caroline looked at me. Her silence lasted a heartbeat too long. I stepped forward before she could speak. If anyone's going to say something, it should be me, I said. There's no relationship. I stayed late. We were working. The HR woman glanced between us. Then you'll both sign statements? David smirked. They'll sign whatever you want. Caroline's jaw clenched. We will, she said. But you're still leaving my office now. The woman hesitated, then nodded and backed out. David lingered, eyes cold, before finally stepping into the hall. The door clicked shut behind him. Silence again. Caroline slumped into her chair, covering her face with both hands. Thank you, she murmured. You don't have to thank me, I said. Yes, I do, she whispered. Because that was the moment I should have told the truth. And I didn't. I crouched next to her chair. Then tell me now. She lowered her hands slowly. Her eyes were rimmed red but clear. I wanted you to be a distraction, she said quietly. I didn't expect you to matter. I swallowed. And now? Now you matter, she said. Too much. I took her hand. Then let's stop hiding. She gave a small, incredulous laugh. You'd risk everything? For me? I already did, I said. She stared at me for a long time. Outside, the rain had slowed to a soft tapping. If we do this, she murmured, there's no going back. No safety net. No pretending later that it was just a mistake. I nodded. I know. Her fingers tightened around mine. You're so young, she whispered. And you're so scared, I whispered back. We stayed like that, breathing the same air, the hum of the lights finally fading into nothing. Then she stood, pulling me up with her. Our foreheads touched, her eyes closing. We don't have to decide everything tonight, she said. But we've already decided something. Yeah, I said softly. Through the glass, the city lights blurred again, but this time it didn't feel lonely. It felt like a curtain lifting. We didn't go back to her office after that night. We met instead in the little cafe 2 blocks from the firm, the one with chipped mugs and flickering candles on every table. It was raining again, but softer now, just enough to bead on the window and make the city glow. Caroline sat across from me, hair still damp, no makeup, hands wrapped around a mug she wasn't drinking. For the first time, she looked less like my boss and more like someone I might have met on a train or in a library. Someone who'd been waiting to be noticed. HR dropped the complaint, she said quietly. David won't be handling my divorce anymore. He's been reassigned. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. And me? You'll finish your internship. No black marks. She gave a small, rueful smile. You saved me from myself, you know. I shook my head. You saved me from being just another intern with a crush. We both laughed softly at that. It didn't sound like relief, it sounded like recognition. I kept thinking about what you said. She went on. About rules. About endings. And I realized. She trailed off, stirring her coffee though there was nothing left to stir. I've been living like everything was already over. But maybe it isn't. Outside, a couple ran past under a shared umbrella, their reflections sliding across the wet pavement. I thought about the first night in her office, the smell of cedar and rain, how my hand had hovered near hers and never quite dared. All the moments we almost touched. I reached across the table now. She didn't hesitate. Her fingers slipped into mine, warm and firm. We don't owe anyone an explanation, I said quietly. Not anymore. She squeezed my hand. We do owe ourselves honesty. That's new for me. We sat like that, the cafe noise a gentle cover around us. No secret meetings, no whispered risks. Just 2 people deciding something real. Are you sure? She asked after a while. Because it won't be easy. People will talk. I'm sure, I said. I'd rather live with them talking than live without you. Her eyes softened, a little shine at the corners. I don't know what happens next, she said. But for the first time in a long time, I want to find out. We both leaned back, letting the silence settle. Not a tense silence this time, but a space big enough to breathe in. On the window, the rain slowed to nothing. The candles flickered, and for a heartbeat I felt like everything was beginning instead of ending. And that's where their story ends for now, not in a scandal, not in a perfect fairy tale, but in a moment of earned honesty and possibility. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?